This is Class Notes Section 5.3, and we're going to look during this lesson at logarithmic functions, which we usually refer to as logs. These functions are inverses of exponential functions. So remember that an inverse, if you're doing a graph, all you have to do is switch the x and the y values, and that's what we can do when we're trying to find the inverse of an exponential function, which gives us a log function. So let's look at the graph of x equals 2 to the y power. So to graph this, we can start out by making a t-table. And in the t-table, instead of filling out the x's, we're going to fill out the y's. So we're going to put a 0 in for y, and then go down 1 and up 1. So then when we plug that in, we get x equals 2 to the negative 1 power. And remember that negative exponent causes that to flip over to become 1/2. So we get a 1/2. And then x equals 2 to the 0 power, and 2 to the 0 power is 1. And then x equals 2 to the first power, which is 2. And now let's go graph these points. We've got 1/2, negative 1. We've got 1, 0, and we've got 2, 1. And there's our inverse of the exponential function, which is the log function. Now, on the same graph, we're going to just do the original function so we can compare them to each other. So I'll do this one in red. So we're going to do our t-table. And we'll let x be 0, a negative 1, and a positive 1. So we get y equals 2 to the negative 1 power, which is 1/2. That goes in our t-table. We get y equals 2 to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1. And then y equals 2 to the first power, which is 2. So we can see that the tables are exactly the same, except for they're inversed. The x becomes the y, and the y becomes the x. So we get a negative 1, 1/2, negative 1, 1/2, and then 0, 1, and then 1, 2. And there is the inverse. Now notice on the exponential function, which is number 3, that you have a horizontal asymptote. I'm going to put that in a different color so that you can see it. That horizontal asymptote is the y equals x line. So that's right here. So that horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. I said x, y equals 0 line. Now then, for the when we do the inverse of it, and that we do that x equals 2 over y, our asymptote now is not a horizontal asymptote anymore. It's a vertical asymptote. And that vertical asymptote, which I'm showing you here in pink, that is the x equals 0 line. That's your vertical asymptote. So the x equals 2 to the y power, which is going to be our log function, has a vertical asymptote, but the exponential function has a horizontal asymptote.